Hello and welcome to
8-year-old.
Who Doesn't Have a Podcast, and we are starting on the mother of all bombshells, not the Doctor Who series finale, not the fact that Mike's been to Glastonbury or the fact that I've just got a flat. We are starting with the breaking news that Jerome Dowling has featured in a Girls Aloud, technically a Girls Aloud music video, and dances with, who are you dancing with?
I think it was Nadine.
With Nadine.
I think it was. I can't remember.
Let's go.
It's so blurry, you can't see. But where is that Sarah in the pink shirt?
In the middle, on the left. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you see then that to the left of her, there's a girl there.
Yeah.
And then there's another girl. You see there's a face. I've
Concrete
got a feeling that's
proof that Jerome Dowling was in a Girls Aloud music video.
This is basically like.
Do you know what? People have said they've seen aliens with less proof than this.
Anyway, that's what we've learned is nothing. So welcome to Who Doesn't Have a Podcast.
Do you want to play another game of Captain Danette?
Oh, I think we should. Now, before we go any further, please, can someone confirm what the actual score is? Because I feel like we have been teasing this for so many weeks, and we don't actually have an end number. I'm guessing none of our listeners or viewers.
None of our listeners are
themselves.
Oh, I'm just gonna throw over to Jerome Aloud.
Thanks, Mike. Yes, so Dan, you asked us about the scores, and what we've decided is that after this one, we will tell you what the final score is.
Will you now?
We will.
Really?
I think we should start fresh because it's the finale. Anyway, Dan, look, I'm going to read three things. One of them is true. You have to tell me what the true thing is.
Okay.
I don't actually know what these are this week as well. So I'm going to secretly play along as well and tell Mike what I think at the end.
Okay, Dan, did this happen? Series 4 nearly included a Harry Potter crossover in which the 10th Doctor would have met real-life J.K. Rowling playing herself and been pulled into her wizarding world. But David Tennant eventually stepped in to pull the plug, describing it as too gimmicky, and the idea was ditched to keep him happy. BBC execs describe its lack of fruition as having dodged a bullet. Dan, did this happen? The 13th Doctor mentions Chris Chibnall by name in their final episode, claiming she gave him the idea for Broadchurch. There were also plans for her to mention David Tennant and Olivia Colman by name as Broadchurch's two leads, but David Tennant eventually stepped in to pull the plug, describing it as too confusing, especially as he appears at the end.
Not too gimmicky.
Not too gimmicky. And then, number 3, Dan, did this happen? The Secret War Doctor, revealed as part of the 50th anniversary specials, was almost going to be yet another incarnation of the Doctor, played by David Tennant. The big reveal at the end of the season prior would have seen an unannounced Tennant appear, shocking viewers. However, Tennant, already due to star in the special as the 10th Doctor, eventually stepped in to pull the plug as he didn't want to have to do double the work.
Well, I didn't realise David Tennant was such a diva. That's the first surprise. So, of those 3 options, do you know what? Honestly, I feel like I've heard about one of these before. Well, You've had an extra 2 weeks to prepare this. I don't think the Broadchurch one is there because that would go over near enough every Doctor Who fan's head. I feel like the last one would ruin the surprise. So I'm going to say, because I feel like there's some truth behind this, that the correct and real answer is the Doctor Who Harry Potter crossover.
Yeah. I mean, it's true.
To be fair,
so just to double check, then, what series, what era of Doctor Who would this have been?
Tennant, isn't it?
It's Tennant. I think it was series 4. I think it was supposed to be the Christmas special.
So would this have been before or after he cameoed in Harry Potter?
I have a feeling as well, because I remember, with Dan, I remember hearing this news, and I've got a feeling that when it got scrapped, what happened instead was that we got the episode about Agatha Christie meeting. I think something to do with meeting Agatha Christie in real life, and then the kind of Agatha Christie sort of novels and the Unicorn and the Wasp thing kind of taking hold and it almost being like a live Agatha Christie novel. I think that's what came out of it, but I might be wrong about that.
Mm. Yeah, I think I've heard that as well.
Yeah, because that would
Fun
make
fact,
sense. That was
fun
series
fact.
4. I think.
One of my friends, to the point where I mentioned it just as a laugh, and he genuinely said,
He was in
"I
Girls
may
Aloud.
well." he would block me, like he would legitimately abandon me as a friend. Has a genuine fear of the wasp in that episode. So much as I
Oh,
show
the
him a picture on my
huge,
phone, he absolutely kicks off big
the
time.
huge CGI wasp.
Yeah, the huge, very unconvincing CGI wasp, and
I remember that
he has
episode.
threatened our friendship over showing him that picture.
Maybe that's one we should rewatch. I remember that. Was it good or was it bad? I can't remember.
Was that the one where he
is there
gets
any-
poisoned and he's there with the salt and stuff like that, running around the kitchen? That was very good.
Is there any Doctor Who monster or it doesn't have to be a monster, any character you've seen that has just made you feel uncomfortable? Like the presence of them just makes you go, oh, I really don't like that, or whatever.
I actually felt, to be honest, I felt the bogeyman monster in season 1 just gone was just not uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable in terms of one, it was shit, but two, it was just disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Dan, is any come to mind?
What's this of
Just makes you
characters?
feel uncomfortable. Just like you watched it and just it made you feel uncomfortable. Oh, you
There
know,
was
actually, when I
one.
was younger and I first was watching Doctor Who, I found Cassandra quite uncomfortable. Just the whole skin thing. It's stretched out. I was a bit like, I don't like that.
No, I'll tell you which one it was. It was the Gelf in the zombies. Oh, it's the second episode.
It's the second episode of season 1, yeah.
Yeah.
That's really scary, actually.
And it's that point where it's the Doctor and Rose, and they are behind the gate. They've kind of like locked themselves in, and the zombies with the white eyes are coming after them through the thing. That really unsettled me as a kid.
Very good. That's such a good answer.
Yeah.
There was always a thing about that where there's a shot where you see one of the Gelf escaping, like into the lamp, I think. And there's always been like, when are the Gelf going to come back? That was really scary, actually.
I thought maybe the giant spiders would, because I don't like spiders, but actually they weren't that bad.
Was that in the Christian one? Yeah.
I remember when I heard there was going to be an episode about spiders, I was like, not for me, thanks. And then I watched it, I was like, oh, it's not that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Yeah, it didn't really like land, did it? To be honest. Right. 2 bits of news that I thought were of note over the past couple of weeks.
Whoa. Hold your horses. Who won?
Nay! Sorry, cool.
Oh, who won? Oh, you won, Dan. And that's the end. That's the end of season 1 of Catching Dan. So
I don't get a prize?
What do you want your prize to be?
Actually, there should be like a, what's the word? It started off so well. A forfeit.
A forfeit.
What do we have to do?
Leave that with me. I'll come back to you on that one.
All right, come back to us on the next episode. Think about something that we have to do. Okay, so I'm calling that the end of season 1 of Catching Dan Up, and 2 weeks' time we'll start season 2. But yeah, you won. Congratulations, Dan. I hope you enjoy it. What a sad little life, Dan.
I knew you were going to do that.
Right, news. So Russell T Davies did an interview where he had like this kind of like dice thing, and it had like different faces of like actors or people from across his career. And one of those people was Eve Miles off of Torchwood.
Oh.
And he said, Eve Miles, loved working with her. I'm going to be working with her again very soon. And whilst he did that, he turned the dice to show Shooty Gatwood's face and kind of like pointed it towards the camera. So Eve Miles, pretty much 100% confirmed, is coming back into the Doctor Who universe as Gwen Cooper. And I've started to think, what if the first spin-off of this new era of Doctor Who isn't just called The War Between the Land and the Sea? What if it's called Torchwood, The War Between the Land and the Sea?
Mm.
And the
Could
other big bit of news about that spin-off is apparently it's going to be led by none other than Martha Jones.
Really?
That's the
Great.
rumor going around.
Now,
So Freema
interesting with
Raji-
that, if you were going to go down the Torchwood route, obviously Martha has been in Torchwood. She temporarily stepped in for a few episodes.
Mhm.
Eve Mars would have. I wonder if Eve, she'll come back either. Is that all the girls?
Oh yeah, she was in those episodes. That episode of the girl. Yeah,
Mind you,
she was.
Torchwood would be better.
Oh yeah,
I'm I'm wondering how they're going to build on the relationship between Torchwood and Unit, because Unit have kind of filled that gap a little bit since Torchwood ended. Do you know what I mean? In terms of being like the scientific division. I mean, it's not like Unit were always there. It's just they took a break from Doctor Who for a while and then came back. So I'll be interested to know, like, did Torchwood form under a new branch of Unit, or are they their own thing, or is it like a completely new? Do you know what I mean? Is it not Torchwood anymore, but it's like this? It's what was Torchwood, but it's become something else. I'll be interested.
I don't think we've seen the end of Torchwood, and I think it'd be quite interesting if this rumored spin-off. It's not even rumored. I think the rumor is it starts filming very, very soon, and Freema Agyeman is finishing a theatre run, and then the month that it's been confirmed to start filming, as confirmed as it can be, she's then free. And yeah, the rumor is that, and I think that's a really good way of building out the universe. And I just started thinking, if Gwen Cooper's coming back, that's great. And I can imagine seeing her coming back in a spin-off and maybe the main show as well. But if she comes back, yeah, what if they are bringing Torchwood back and they just haven't, and it's just been leaked cleverly? You know what I mean? I don't know. That was the first bit of news. The second one I literally read today was Russell T Davies, a little tease, has said that he may never explain why Mrs. Flood breaks the fourth wall. He said that he knows, and everybody in the Doctor Who offices knows why Mrs. Flood breaks the fourth wall all the time, but he may never reveal it because it might not be relevant. And I think he's lying, because I think, like, you have to explain that, right? Like, you have to. You can't just leave that.
It's too weird not to.
It's too weird not to.
Or they'll just do what all showrunners do, which is, I've done this thing. It's on to the next person to the next. Do you know what I mean? Or sort of like, to be honest, it's an interesting ploy. Like, I think he probably will reveal it, but also he might not. Like, he might not. It might just be a thing to kind of throw mystery back into the show, and just be like, because also, like, I suppose you can generalize it by saying there's the whole god thing going on, right? They're clearly interested in the gods and mythology and mystery and how things are. It's like 73 yards was great. There was a lot to love in that episode, but not all of it was fully explained. Like, there were still things from that episode where I went, I don't like, do you know what I mean? Where it's kind of left very vague on purpose, I think. So maybe it won't be explained.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, we mentioned in the podcast, didn't we, a few weeks ago that, we never got an explanation as to why people ran away.
And
she
interestingly enough,
whispered.
I thought they'd leave 73
exactly.
yards away. I thought they'd leave it alone 73 yards. I didn't think we were getting explanations, but they do mention it, don't they, in the finale? Like, it is mentioned.
Yes, yeah.
That it's to do with the TARDIS perception filter, right? Being exactly 73 yards, which I thought was a really clever, like, I don't know what it means, but yeah, I just thought it was clever.
Yeah.
Right, should we get into the episode review? So we've got 15 minutes for Jerome has to go, and then maybe Dan, you and I could stay on for an extra 5-10 minutes if we need to, if we feel like we've still got things to say. Jerome, do you want to go first? So to anybody who listens to this podcast, sorry that we're 3 weeks late, because I went to Glastonbury and
I went to France and Dan bought a flat.
Jerome went to France. And Dan bought a flat.
So review. Firstly, I want to say, like, as a series on a whole, I've really enjoyed the series. Like to wrap things up, I think the series has been really, really. There's been a lot of encouraging elements to it. I feel like I really like the new Doctor. That's always the big thing about a first series of any Doctor is, do I like this iteration? And I do. I think Ncuti's done an amazing job. Really like the chemistry of Millie Gibson, who, incidentally, has she left? Has she not? I don't think she's left. It's almost been confirmed, I think, that she's featuring in episodes from next season. But obviously, there's been a parting of the ways that I think is quite interesting, that she's been able to get out. And it also feels like a little bit parting of the ways. It feels like a little bit of an interesting kind of, maybe, like how he previously said about Moffat. Moffat loves to kill off a a kind of assistant or a companion, and he's made it quite clear that she's gone. Do you know what I mean? She's left. She's gone to be with her family. In terms of Sutekh, I'm torn because there's part of me that feels like I really liked what they did in terms of like the explanation of how he has been with the TARDIS this entire time and going through time and space and kind of, you know, this God, this almighty power that has just destroyed the Earth in kind of one full swoop. I'm not against the fact that they tied the rope to him and
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yeah,
no, I get it. Because in terms of like from character development side, it's kind of like you're a god, but actually you're so minuscule compared to the Doctor, who has traveled through literally everything, who is the timeless child, who's all this thing. It's like, doesn't matter, you're a god. It's like the speech in Rings of that carton, where he does that speech where he's like, I've seen parasite gods blaze and I've done all this, and it's like it doesn't matter that you're a dog, that you're a dog. You are a dog, but you're a god. I'm going to take you down. On one front though, I think like the Doctor, the 15th Doctor, there's a lot to love, but he's terrible at dog walking. I mean, that was one of the worst dog walks I've ever seen. You need to get the RSPCA involved in that, because what the hell was going on there? And also, I feel like Sutekh, not wasted, but I just feel like that's a villain that's of such a high profile. It'd be good to see again, and I just don't get the feeling we will. I get the feeling that they've just gone, nope, gone, bye. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But the other thing was, and I'm sure we'll get onto this, I'll probably throw this out to you guys to give you, like, to pass it on. Ruby's mum.
yeah.
I'll save what I think for now. I'll throw it over to you guys.
Do you mind if I step in, because I might?
Yeah.
Before you have to go, Jerome, I'd like to hear your input on a few of these things. So, one, and I'll touch on Ruby's mum as well. I've seen it twice. I watched it obviously at the cinema, and then I watched it. That sounds weird. I just watched it. I didn't watch it at the cinema. Anyway, right? And I was quite underwhelmed the first time. I really, really didn't like a lot of the things that I was seeing. And then the second time I watched it, I texted you, Jerome, because Dan, you hadn't seen it yet, so I didn't want to give you any spoilers. But I got it a lot more. I've got criticism about that, because I think there needs to be enough there for people to get on the first viewing. And I don't know if it's just me and how I watch Doctor Who. I had to watch it twice to kind of like it a lot more. And when I started to like it, I really liked it. And here's a few reasons why. First one, I originally thought that Sutech's obsession with the mystery around Ruby's mum was nonsense, because why would he care? Like, why would he care about who Ruby's mum is? But the fact that he keeps them alive to find out who was nonsense. And then I watched it a bit more. I watched the in-vision commentary, which Russell T Davies does on some of these episodes, which I would highly recommend because it's very good. And he says he's been on board the TARDIS for all this time. Everything the Doctor's seen and worked out, he's also seen and worked out. And the one remaining mystery that's flummoxed the Doctor is who's Ruby's mum. So he doesn't know either. And I started to think a bit more like that. And I was like, no, I think I would drive him insane, because he knows everything. He knows everything that the Doctor knows about time and space. And there's this one thing that the Doctor doesn't know yet, that they haven't discovered. And I thought that was quite good. So I thought that was quite smart. Just a bit underwhelming on the first viewing, but then smart on the second viewing. And then I also, on the first viewing, really, really, really didn't like Jerome said, how Ruby manages to throw that rope over Sutekh. I thought, come on. I think it's exactly what Jerome's saying. A bit underwhelming, a bit like you brought Sutekh back, supposed to be this big god, like who is really powerful, and then you've just thrown a rope around him. I thought it was a bit silly. However, on the rewatch, then I was like, it is kind of Doctor Who through and through. A bit silly, a bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But also quite brilliant. The Doctor's plan is quite brilliant. Shooty Gatwick is amazing in that scene. He's got his little gloves on and his little rope, and he's got his little whistle. That's very Doctor Who. And then he does what is quite a brutal act of like dragging Sutekh throughout time and space, like to all the places he's ever been, dragging him on a leash by the TARDIS is quite brutal, but quite a satisfying ending when you think about it in terms of bringing death to death. Like that's how you bring everyone back to life, right? By bringing death to death, I think is really clever and really well done. And as a side thought, I actually thought that whole bit of dragging him through the vortex was incredibly well done. I thought it looked great. Like that's where the Disney money is, right? Like,
Yeah,
it
big
looked
time.
amazing. Like, you know, and I just thought it was a very different, clever ending to like a sci-fi show, which I don't know. I just don't think I got it the first time round. And then I did get it the second time round and just enjoyed it more. And then the final thing I'd like to say, apart from Gatwer is at the peak of his powers, I think he's incredible as the Doctor. I think he's incredible in this final episode. Is the one thing I still don't like about the finale is why Ruby's mum is skulking around in a cloak, sinisterly pointing at random road signs for no reason. And being like, oh, it's like Ruby. I thought that was a really underwhelming end to that mystery. But in the in-vision commentary, Russell C. Davies does say that he explains that by it's like time has distorted that memory because the Doctor's decided it's really important. Ruby thinks it's really important. Sutekh thinks it's really important. But time has just kind of distorted it a little bit, and it's probably not how it was depicted. Sorry.
Can I just comment on that really quickly?
Yes, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
What I thought was really interesting about the Ruby's mum thing, because I totally get what you're coming about with the cloak and the road sign, and I think that was everyone was going, why, what? The one thing that I really agree with you on, Mike, is that what was interesting is like when Disney came in, it was everyone's going to be like, it's going to be fireworks, it's going to be big, it's going to be money, it's going to be splashed around everywhere. But what I thought was really interesting is that one of the things he said at the very beginning of the series was that it's about the mythical nature we attach to things that have happened. So like a lot of the time we'll make things bigger than what they are because it's like the power of like the storytelling and stuff. But what I thought was really interesting was that with this, it was like, so like Marvel, we've lived it like through a couple, like in a golden era of Marvel and superheroes and Doctor Who and big things and like, you know, big passionate speeches and emotion and all of these things. And it's almost like they completely pulled it back and just went, the story is actually about a girl finding her mum. That's it. And it's a really powerful, emotional story. Like that scene between the two of them at the end is so powerful. It's so.
I think it's an all-time great, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think it's an
so
all-time great
so
scene.
real. I think that it almost makes. I totally get it with. It's like first viewing, you go, oh, it's not what I thought, but then you watch it the second time and you go, actually, like it's because it's because time and space and the Doctor and all this kind of, you know, all of these big things that have happened. It's like you almost expect it to be big now. And they just went, no, it's real. It's real. She found her mum. And actually, like the storytelling, I think, is quite clear. It's quite simple, but it's very powerful. But it might turn off some Doctor Who fans. Do you know what I mean? Who are used to like the grand escapades and the big finales and stuff. But I think as a story, it's great. I think the way it's just a different approach. I think it would maybe take time for people to, you know, kind of learn to accept or whatever. But I think it was just like from a storytelling perspective, if you ignore everything else about there's a TARDIS and time travel and this, just as a story, it makes sense. Sorry, Dan,
I think the payoff of them meeting in the coffee shop is an all-time great scene. I think it's played beautifully. It's really emotional. I just don't understand all the cloak stuff, pointing at the road sign, being like, I've just named Ruby. I just think that's a bit like, I don't know. Dan, over to you.
Dan.
Fresh.
I think as far as finales go, I feel like had it ended prior to that coffee shop scene, I would have been severely disappointed. That made the episode for me. That secured it. That locked it down as a very good episode. Prior to that, I feel like there was a lot that I mean, there were a few more things that I picked out because I did the list as well. The first and the most important one has got to be, how fast is that Vespa scooter? Because from space, that sandstorm is decimating the planet at an alarming rate, and you're telling me a tiny little Vespa bike can outrun a sandstorm?
It's a sonic bike. We all know that.
A sonic bike. Yeah. I felt like at some points, again, it kind of fell into that trap that we've seen a few times this season on Doctor Who, where it's kind of over explaining itself. or maybe kind of like over referencing Doctor Who of old. And I feel like there's a point where you either very cleverly write it into the narrative so you don't have to explain it. Because I feel like if you're having to explain something in a lot of detail, you're not writing it as well as you could be. I don't know. And I feel like for Rusty Davies, he's been able to do that in the past where he's kind of referenced old stuff, but it's not been like, and here's now a 30-second reference on to the past, which we've seen a few times, which is a bit annoying. Yeah. I've got written down here 1999, 1066, 2005. Every time he lands, the Earth is dying so many times.
I loved and expected, kind of. I thought it was beautifully written, that 2005 reference. Yeah. It really ties things back to Russell T Davies's first era. So when he said, what does he say first? 19, what is he go?
So he says 1999, 1066, 2005.
And then in my head, I went 2005. And they said it, and I thought that was so good. I thought it was a really beautiful moment. Like it's when the Doctor first landed on Earth and met Rose, Sutekh was like put out a version of. I do like that plot of Sutekh stowing away in the TARDIS.
And I've got another thing here. It says he led every world he visited to its death. And then I've also written Daleks ... Everything is dead. So it's the fact that he even mentions by name the Daleks or Skara or whatever, but he actually specifically mentions that even the Daleks are dead.
So with the Time Lords, Chris Chibnall killed the Time Lords again, but do you think bringing death to death has reversed the destruction of Gallifrey and the destruction of the Time Lords?
I think it's entirely possible, isn't it? I think this is the thing. It just opens to, because the thing is that, like, I think in a show like Doctor Who, nothing's ever truly gone. There's always a way. Do you know what I mean? There's always a way you can find to bring something back. The Master's been dead about 1,000 times. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so many times where, and I just think like if they want to bring Gallifrey and the Time Lords back, they will. They'll find a way. So,
do you reckon the Absorbaloff has gone? Or is he coming back?
He's coming back bigger and more face. I don't know. He's coming back. That's my assumption for season 2. We're seeing Absorbaloff in full force.
The final god.
Okay, so there was also a throwback to the election episode.
Yeah,
we see that on the little TV screen that Ruby holds.
73 yards has been a real pit. Like there's a lot going on in that episode.
And I get the feeling as well that that'll be referenced again.
Love that. Because I read an interview with Russell Davies where he said that his initial idea for coming back to Doctor Who was a 2-year plan. So I think 73 yards is there's something. Yeah, I think that Roger at Willem. I don't think we've seen the end of that character.
No, definitely 100%. Not. He'll come back with a vengeance. And then I've also noted this, and I didn't know whether any of the Doctors done this in the past, but there's a DNA test in the sonic screwdriver.
When does he do that? I can't
remember.
There's one
bit, I'll have to watch it again, but there's one point where there's some kind of DNA test that takes place. And it's from the sonic screwdriver. It has that ability. I don't think I've written that if it didn't happen. But and then I've got two one more. So she's taking Doggy for a walk.
She's taking Doggy for a walk.
I don't know why that's there. Again,
I think that's what Jerome was saying, where she's put the rope around him and they've dragged him to the space.
Yeah. And the whistle controls the TARDIS, so it's another throwback to the Devil's Cord as well.
Yeah,
love the whistle. The whistle I loved. I love the idea.
I thought that was a brilliant little throw. So there's been little nods again back to it's
that's
the payoff.
Why I think it was so Doctor Who. Like it was a very Doctor Who ending that I was kind of underwhelmed with, and I watched it again and I was like, no, it's brilliant. Like it's brilliant. Like he's got the whistle, he's got the gloves, he's got the rope. It all makes sense.
Also, I think a quick shout out as well to Murray Gold. She's done it, like the music in some of it. Do you know what I mean? Especially the bit where they're turning the tables on Sutekh. Do you know what I mean? And going in with the whistle and that, like, just really just big epic kind of music soundtracks as always. Like he nails it, doesn't he, Murray? All the time.
He smashed it. I would say this. If you're like me and you're a bit underwhelmed on first viewing and you don't want to go back and watch it again, do watch it again because it does make a lot more sense than you think it does. And I think it is a very, very good season finale. We should rate it.
I know, right? So I know you've got a few more minutes to go, Jerome. I've actually scrolled down, and I am with Mike on this because genuinely one of the things I've written down was she named her after a fucking street sign, literally there. And also, again, this I'm literally diving into nothing here, but there was a slight significance when they did reunite of Ruby's red phone case and her mum's blue phone case.
Ah, I didn't notice that.
You know that sort of thing when you grow up at primary school and it's like, well, like the windows were white and the curtains were blue. What does that mean about the writer? I always thought because Ruby, obviously Ruby red, the colour, the Doctor, the TARDIS kind of is like home for her. And finally, before Jerome has to go, I think we have to absolutely mention this because we've not done it yet. A few things. The adventure's just beginning. And the fact that the Doctor couldn't look at her when she left. The fact that she says to him, I love you. We don't really hear the Doctor's assistants actually saying that often. Then he cries. And then we end with Mrs. Flood. Am I right in saying that, Mrs. Flood?
Yeah.
It's Mrs.
She says his story ends in absolute terror. So what do we think that's going to allude to at Christmas?
The Reign of Terror, French Revolution, bang.
I don't know, but I do think it's a 2-year plan, and I think we're going to see. I think we've got a lot more of Miss Flood coming up. She's been seen in set photos. Apparently, there's just a lot of things going on in season 2, and I'm very excited for that. I don't know why she keeps breaking the fourth wall. And the listeners who listened earlier in the podcast, Russell Davis better explain that. You can't just leave that. You have to explain why she keeps throwing on the barrel of the camera.
My last word on Mrs. Flood is that she's the Valeyard.
I mean, do you know what? This is a slow burn as well. And if that actually pays off and is true, I'm going to be so thoroughly and proud and impressed of you.
I'll give you a round of applause.
Yeah, I would.
With your
Not
feet.
now, but
No, yeah.
Give us
a brick.
Score, Jerome.
I'm going to have to go. But my score for the episode, I enjoyed it. I would say, as finales go, comparing it to like thinking of other finales. Finale. The finale gets an 8.
8.
I would say the series as a whole also gets an 8. I would say.
That Moss.
Episode, I'm going to give I was going to give it about a 6, but I think with the ending, I'll knock it to a 7. This series, I would probably go for I'd say harsh 6, generous 7, 6.5. I'll go to 6.5.
Nice. 9 for the episode for me, and an 8 for the series.
Sounds like a plan.
So that's it for another episode of Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Jerome's got to go for his dinner. These two lads are going to watch the footy.
Follow us on our socials.
Yes, at Who Doesn't Pod. We're actually using TikTok and Instagram now. We actually know how to use it. We remember the passwords and everything. So please give us a follow, drop us a like, share, retweet, comment, all that jazz. And until the next time.
Until the next time.
Time next until.
The next time.
Sutekh. And if you learned one thing from that episode.
I love you both. I've got to go.
Don't put a leash on your pet dog.
Don't.
Yeah. Don't drag a pet dog through time and space. If you like this YouTube video, please consider liking,
sharing,
and subscribing.